The city of the cores was gone now, obscured entirely by the dark beneath them. What is it? An AI's defense system, the construct said. Or part of it. If it's your pal, Wintermute, he's not looking real friendly. Take it, Case said. You're faster. Now your best defense, boy. It's a good offense. And the flat line aligned the nose of Kwong's sting with the center of the dart below and dove. Case's sensory input warped with their velocity, his mouth filled with the aching taste of blue. His eyes were eggs of unstable crystals, vibrating with a frequency whose name was rain and the sound of trains, suddenly sprouting a humming forest of hair-fine glass spines. The spines split, bisected, split again, exponential growth under the dome of the Tessier Ashpool ice. The roof of his mouth cleaved painlessly, admitting rootlets that whipped around his tongue, hungry for the taste of blue, to feed the crystal forests of his eyes, forests that pressed against the green dome, pressed and were hindered, and spread, growing down, filling the universe of TA, down into the waiting, hapless suburbs of the city that was the mind of Tessier Ashpool S.A. And he remembered an ancient story, a king placing coins on a chessboard, doubling the amount each square, exponential. Darkness fell in from every side, a sphere of singeing black, pressure on the extended crystal nerves of the universe of data he had nearly become. I'll stop there, but I just wanted to give you all a sense of the vibes of the book we're covering right now.
Listeners, it is all like that.
Yeah, you better, if you don't like it, then it's one of those books that if you aren't enjoying the prose by page 3, you could probably drop it safely.
Yeah.
And if you don't enjoy the prose, just listen on, because we'll just give you what you need to know about it.
Yeah.
Listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.
Well, welcome back to Workers Lit, the Socialist Shelf subsection of it. It is Jacob here with Aisha. Lenore is lost in cyberspace, unfortunately. Unfortunately, she flatlined. What can you do? It's just one of those things.
Caught up in some nasty ice.
Sucks. Hate when that happens.
Ice has such a different meaning to me in the modern day than it did in 1984.
Yeah, ice got Lenore. The fun kind from this book. But fortunately, Lenore has been not replaced, but temporarily shuffled around by a third mic in the form of Trevor Strunk of the No Cartridge podcast. Welcome to the pod, Trevor.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here as the ghost of one or both of your girlfriends who died because of your terrible abilities to do crimes.
I hate when that happens.
You know what? It's just one of those things.
That happens to me a lot. Trevor, before we get into it, people don't listen to plugs at the end. I've found, and I've been guilty of that myself. Tell the people what your podcast is, because it is pretty damn good.
Oh, well, thank you. That's really kind of you. So my podcast is, it's a lot of things, but the basic idea is we do a kind of a thoughtful and often always left-leaning look at video games and video game culture. And this extends in a lot of ways. We've done episodes on anime. We've done episodes on, films, video game films, and otherwise. We're very broad with our cultural objects, but a lot of the show, I think sort of the heart of the show is it's an interview format. And I just talk to all sorts of people. I mean, I think one of the one of the initial things I started with No Cartridge was I just kind of would talk to anyone. I mean, we were talking about having all three of you on to talk Hades or some other game or whatever. And you're not just anybody, but I would have, you know, people who just message me.
I'll let anybody on, even you guys.
Well, I was gonna say I've fully like gone away from my roots because I only have celebs like you on.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, I see, yeah.
Hey,
But no,
I checked the numbers. We are the number 13 biggest book podcast in, I forget which, like, it was a really obscure small country, but I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we'll take it.
Are you big in Moldova?
I'll have to check Moldova. We've got like a solid 5 people who have been listening in Hong Kong since we did a 3 body problem episode, and those 5 people are still listening for like the last 2.5 years.
With it. All right.
I've asked them to email us before, and they haven't, but they do continue to show up on the thing. So who knows?
5
I have to
Chinese
assume-
people down, only 5 billion to go.
Yes.
But yeah, we talked to all sorts of people. We had Cameron Konzelman on of Range Touch last week, and this week we're having Alex House from House of Decline on. It's it's anyone and everyone who wants to talk to me, whether they're famous like our fellow hosts here tonight on the Socialist Shelf or not. We're thrilled to have them on No Cartridge Talk Video Games because it's a big topic and someone has to do it.
Good shit. Somebody's got to bring some decent politics to video games. Holy cow.
It's tough. Yeah, no, it's really hard. It's me and Scott Benson and Dia Lucina, and then Liv, and then my co-host Liv, and then everyone else is just kind of way down the charts.
Actually, when they were asking for testimonials for their website, the Worst of All Possible Worlds guys, I gave them a quote, which was, "The only men I want to listen to talk about video games." I think that's on their website.
That's reasonable.
So I reached out because, been a fan and I thought it would be a good collab, and you suggested that Neuromancer would be a good book. And Neuromancer is a book that we've danced around doing before, haven't gotten around to. Why Neuromancer? What made you interested in that one?
So there's a couple of things. I mean, there's a real practical one, which is it is a book that Liv and I are going to cover probably in like January or something like that on the GG No Reread thing where we do a video game and a book. But beyond that, this is a book I have a long relationship with. I read it when I was like 14, I think. A friend of mine just said like, "Hey, you'd like this book." If or when I get my camera working, I'll show it to you. But I have like an old paperback copy that I bought when I got it when I was a lot younger, and I looked at the price and it's $6.99 US to give you an idea of when I bought it. Back this could barely get you a trial subscription to exploitation.ai anymore, but back then it could get you this whole book. And I read it and I loved it. Like, it really, really struck me. And I've always kind of had like a passing fascination with cyberpunk as a result. Something I've like thought about a lot in grad school, although I never really wrote about it when I was getting my PhD. I've taught it a lot. I've taught it a lot as a novel. So, I mean, I've read it a ton of times and I've approached it in a ton of different contexts. And it's just like, to me, Neuromancer is such a strange little object because Gibson gets so much right about our current moment in capitalism. And then like also it's not so much wrong, but I feel like treating him as just a guy who gets everything right also misses the forest for the trees. I think there's so much here that's really interesting and so much here that's very strange. And ignoring the strangeness is why people find his later books like uninteresting when they're also just as weird and strange and right and wrong. And I think like his need to go for it in describing what's around him, as well as just like kind of immediately keying into the Frederick Jameson postmodern concept of the time. It just makes the book very singular, and I kind of love it. Neuromancer is probably my favorite, but this is one of those like in matters of taste kind of things. People will say there is no wrong, but ultimately it just means that you're not answering honestly in a critical way. because like Neuromancer is my favorite because of when I read it, right? Like I was a kid,
Right.
it struck me, it grabbed me, it was so interesting. But I read Pattern Recognition, which is a later one,
Mm-hmm.
and you will never see a more accurate and compelling approach to BBS culture, like bulletin board culture, than that book. He nails it completely, and it is remarkable. And I think like it's a shame that this book is all people read by him, because you get people saying like the rest are overrated, and they're really not. They're really really good.
Gibson actually is kind of critical of this book in his interviews. He calls it a very adolescent book. He
Well,
feels
it's his first book, right?
Yes, it's his first book. He'd written short stories,
Right.
but this was his first, and he feels very like he's like, yeah, there's some cool stuff, but like I didn't really know what I was doing.
I mean, I'm a writer. Listeners, you know that professionally I'm a writer, so there definitely like was moments in this that I'm like, I think this could have used an editor.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And like it's one of those instances where it's very sci-fi in this way. And I don't mean that pejoratively. I just mean the genre has a lot of tolerance for it. Like there's moments in a lot of like classic sci-fi films as well, and but particularly like TV series and like short stories where you're reading these classics and you're like, actually, this whole section doesn't totally need to be here, but
yeah.
everyone loves it, and that's why it's here now. Like if you watch like I love the Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back in Star Wars. It's like my favorite setting and maybe the whole trilogy. It really doesn't need to be in that movie. Like,
Yeah, I
you
literally have a note here from reading Neuromancer, which is the first 20 pages is just a guy walking down hallways.
Yep.
I wrote down at one point, it was one of the hacking scenes, just the Walter White, Jesse, what the fuck are you talking about? At one point. This isn't me saying I don't like the book, but it is truly, I mean, I read the quote at the top, which I simultaneously is insane and rules, and also if you're not like on board with it, like you said, Trevor, you're not on board with it. Like, I actually think 14 might be like the optimal age to read this kind of book.
Well,
1,000,000.
this book is also like, if you are a kind of person who needs to have anything explained to you, then this is not a good book for you.
Reddit has worked very hard to make everything internally consistent, which Gibson has made fun of on social media, which I appreciate. Aisha, what's your history with this book? Because I'll say I thought I had read it, and it turns out I had only read sections of it. This, I think, was my first full read through of Neuromancer.
Yeah, I think I tried to read it when I was 20 or something, and I bounced off of it. Probably because of how dense it is, and I was like, when I was 20, I was reading a bunch of dense shit. Like I was doing a philosophy degree. I was reading like Hegel, and I was like, okay, I cannot also read this.
Right.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
But
Hegel would have loved Neuromancer.
Yeah, Hegel would have been.
It's true.
He'd be like,
yeah.
This makes perfect sense.
The philosopher's code for Neuromancer is there's like three people who have philosophies that essentially are Neuromancer, and it's Hegel and then Deleuze and Guattari.
Yep.
The real thing though that I really like it struck me is like, this is a book from like 40 years ago, like from 1984 is when it was first published. And I know there is like such this like thing that I hear my dad say occasionally, which is like, oh man, back in the day, like, sci-fi novels didn't used to have like politics. They were just like, I was like, what are you talking? Like, Neuromancer is all politics.
Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that like one of the things that kind of rubs me the wrong way about people reading this text is you'll get people saying that it's not actually like a critique of capitalism. Like it's truly just, oh, Gibson is describing like he's making a different world. Like he's just looking at what it is. It's incidental that it critiques capitalism, which like, again, his later books do too. One of the most interesting things, again, that book, Pattern Recognition, one of the most interesting things in that book is the main character has a horrible phobia of the Michelin Man, Babendum, which is just brilliant, I think. Yeah, he's terrifying.
Yeah, fuck that man.
He's made of tires. But he like Gibson loves poking fun and critiquing capitalism. I don't see that as incidental here at all, but it's a common enough reading that people are like, yeah, no, you didn't mean it. It's like, it's just cool. It's neon.
Well, that's a great point to transition into Gibson and who he was as a guy. I've got a little bit of a bio here. And Gibson is also still living. So, Gibson, if you're listening to this, come on the socialist shelf. William Gibson grew up in Wytheville, Virginia, born in 1948. Wytheville is interesting because, it's like an Appalachian town, and he described it as a place that experienced modernity without embracing it while he was growing up, which kind of gave him his feeling of like, I understand technology, but I have this weird vibe around it. He's the son of a construction manager who choked to death on food in his youth. Like, he was just at a restaurant, choked to death. Gibson's mother was like avoidant enough that she like didn't tell him that it happened, and like ended up having to get a family friend to tell him because she couldn't like sit down with her son and talk to him, like, which kind of just was their whole relationship growing up. But that's like the ultimate incarnation of it. Now, he went to a high school, Wytheville High, that was like obsessed with basketball. It was like a basketball school. He being a nerd who would be the type to be like, oh, are we doing a sports ball? Like that type of guy, basically was like a recluse, and just got obsessed with like reading in his room, and got really into beatniks poetry. This time he also got to like Jack Kerouac and William S. Burroughs and Henry Miller and some of that. He kind of developed this anti-religious streak in a very religious town on his own. His mom, on a threat when they got in a fight, said, I'm going to send you away to boarding school. And he said, okay, do it. And she did. And he said that was one of the best things that ever happened to him because it forced him to talk to human beings for the first time. And he said without doing that, he would have never talked to anyone. But actually, when his mom dies at age 18, he drops out. He doesn't get his high school diploma.
Oh, interesting.
So what's funny is around the time Neuromancer comes out, and for years afterwards, he would claim just after this, he dodged the draft. That is not exactly accurate. So I watched a little bit of a documentary he was in 2008, and he says this about himself. He said, when he started out as a writer, I took credit for draft evasion when I shouldn't have. I washed up in Canada with some vague idea of evading the draft, but I was never drafted, so I never had to make that call. I don't know what I would have done if I'd been drafted. I wasn't a tightly wrapped package of a man. If somebody drafted me, I might have just cried and gone. And he proceeds to say, in those days, hot women wouldn't sleep with you and dealers wouldn't give you good weed if you supported the U.S. military. So he did not support the U.S. military. So shout out to dealers and hot women. One fallen soldier of empire at a time.
Strong allies both. I do think it's funny, just like as an aside, like how many people in that era who weren't drafted, particularly like all my homies hate American imperialism, but like the people who weren't drafted particularly as like a group, like the my dad's like this, right? Like he was born in 57 and he wasn't drafted. Like he wasn't really even all that close to being drafted. It was at the end of the war when he would have been anyway, but he burned his draft card, or that's what he told me. And he clearly did. Like, I'm sure he did. Like, I'm sure he put his draft card in the in the furnace or in the fireplace or whatever, but he wasn't drafted. Like but in his mind, it's a kind of like symbolic draft dodge, right? Like it's a symbolic way of saying like I wouldn't spit on this thing. I wouldn't do it. I would never do that. And I feel like that's just like an interesting way that people in that time made sense of something that is just like so nebulous and traumatic and strange.
Well, regardless, I do think it's funny that Gibson for years was like, I was a draft dodger. And then like, he's like, okay, so no one drafted me per se. But yeah, that is absolutely a type of guy.
Just stealing valor in a different way. That's really exciting.
There you go. Reverse stealing valor, giving valor. He ends up getting his high school diploma at age 21. He travels around with his wife-to-be, Deborah Jean Thompson, who he'll have a child with. They spend some time in Europe, which I think is funny. He says his time in Europe was funny because he said that we only went to countries with positive exchange rates for us because we were broke. In fact, he like funds his European travels because CBS like features him on he's not a writer yet. He's just a guy, like just a hippie on their Summer of Love special and give him like $450, which he uses to like get over the ocean.
That's so funny.
That's like that's such a classic thing.
What a random ass, like also just crazy that guy ends up, being William Gibson. And then when he goes back to Canada, once he and his wife have a child, she becomes a teacher, and he says his full-time job at the time was going to Salvation Army stores, finding stuff for cheap, and then reselling it for more money somewhere else. And then he realized that he could make more money if he just got a scholarship and went back to college and just lived on the life stipend from that, just like from whatever Canadian school he was nearby.
What a dirtbag.
So he went and got an English degree, which is where he wrote the short story Fragments of a Hologram Rose, which is his first ever short story to be published. And that was for Susan Wood's class. Do either of y'all know Susan Wood?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, Susan Wood is considered kind of one of the mothers of like modern fan fiction. She won the Hugo for Best Fan Writer 3 times, like when they first started doing that. And she also is credited with the first ever feminist sci-fi panel in North America, which was at Worldcon in the 70s. So she was kind of a niche like figure in like fanzines and stuff like that in her own right, and had this huge impact on him. And then around this time, he meets, John Shirley, who convinces him to actually start taking writing seriously and actually try to publish his stories, not just like write them. At the time, Gibson was considering seeing if he could get another scholarship to go to grad school, and his pitch was to write a dissertation about how all hard sci-fi novels are fascist, which I think
it would have. I do love the alternate world where he writes a book that I definitely would have read in graduate school.
Yeah. And John Shirley, I don't know if y'all know him, but he wrote the movie The Crow. He wrote on Deep Space Nine. He helped write the BioShock games. So he was like around, working on some pretty cool stuff. Very influential on him. In 1982, the two of them went to Armadillo Con in Texas, where they linked up with Bruce Sterling and Louis Shiner. And they felt like that was where the cyberpunk genre was born, at Armadillo Con in Texas, which is a hilarious name.
Good place for it to be born.
Sterling helps him get published. And Sterling says his original magazines, like the original magazines where he was getting Gibson published. What was it he said? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, he says he told Gibson people were baffled. And he's like, by like my concepts? And he goes, no, they couldn't understand your paragraphs.
So good.
And I thought that was funny.
He's the fiction writer, Fred Jameson. Like he just is. They have so much in common.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a thing that like we can talk about when we actually talk about the book. But like I think that like Neuromancer, it sounds very modern. Like I literally think like from the language, it could have been written now. But the structure is so old-fashioned.
Oh yeah.
Like the fact that there's so many like a person telling a story about a person who was telling a story, and then that person also has a story.
Yes. Very like 1001 Nights.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Scheherazade of his day. Yeah. I mean, I think like also it feels a lot like those older Michael Moorcock era fantasy like compilations too, and sci-fi and fantasy really, like I would say prior to our current moment, I would say blend together a lot more, especially in terms of like tropes and manners of writing them. Like I feel like the idea of just a bunch of like disconnected stories making up a book was much more expected. And that yeah, I think like the language you could for sure get published today. I think you're right. The structure would be a hard thing for any publisher to be like, why are you writing it this way?
So he would then write a bunch of short stories that would become the Burning Chrome collection. Burning Chrome collection is great, by the way. I think it's better than Neuromancer for the most part. The vibes of it, at least. But But this is where also Johnny Mnemonic comes from, the short story. Of the same Johnny Mnemonic that will be Keanu Reeves in the 90s, that he'll also work on that movie, and then will just, be the basis for like Johnny Silverhand later on.
Also, the Johnny Mnemonic FMV computer game that I played with my dad when I was like 10.
Sick.
When will we have that on No Cartridge? That's the real question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when I actually get to play the Blade Runner FMV game again, which I think is on Good Old Games, because my version of Johnny Mnemonic game is Blade Runner FMV game, which I think, we could do like dueling banjos on that one. That would
Hell yeah. Johnny Mnemonic is also where Molly first appears for the first time. She's in multiple of his stories.
I thought you meant the drug.
No, yeah, he did not invent the drug Molly. No, the character of Molly,
wasn't he? It's incredible.
The character of Molly appears for the first time in Johnny Mnemonic. It's also where he coins the term cyberspace. Is in the Burning Chrome collection. That is his term that he came up with, which is fucking nuts.
That was his term. I didn't know if it was in Neuromancer or in a different book.
He also coined the terms net surfing, ice, jacking in, and neural implants. Those are all him.
Also created jacking off.
Yes. No one jacked off until William Gibson tried to twice at the same time, something like that.
William Gibson's writing his book. He's like, what else can I jack? And he's like, I have a forbidden term. I'll publish this one in my Playboy article.
Can you jack out? Wait, let me brainstorm this.
Yeah, John Shirley walks in. He's like, what have you discovered, Gibson?
No one must know.
Johnny Mnemonic also had a quote that I thought was wild, because this is 82, and he says, I foresee an information economy, one where it's impossible to move, live, or operate at any level without leaving traces, bits, seemingly meaningless fragments of personal information that can be retrieved and amplified for the public. And that's a pretty wildly accurate quote for like the 1980s, especially since Gibson is like not a guy who was actually that into being on the computer. He was into watching other people on the computer. While writing Neuromancer, he apparently would go to the arcade and just watch people play the arcade games. He apparently did not, according to him, did not like to play the arcade games. And the same way, he wrote Neuromancer on a typewriter from the 1930s and like did not want to use computers for a long time. So it's very interesting.
He's like my wife watching me play Silk Song.
Wait, so just observing you?
Yeah, well, I mean, she played it first, but now she just watches me play. She helps me.
Neuromancer finally comes out in 1984. This is something I find funny when he's writing it. In the middle of it, the Blade Runner comes out in 1982. And he said he almost gives up on the novel. And he said, I wanted to die. Everyone thinks I'm going to I was just stealing everything from Blade Runner. Turns out like, no, dude, this is a very different world than Blade Runner. But sorry you were sad.
Blade Runner has a really different vibe. Like one of the things that actually surprised me is that Neuromancer doesn't feel that noir to me. It feels just like straight sci-fi to me.
Some of the early stuff does.
Yeah,
you can see how he pulls from Chandler, because he says like he pulls from Chandler, and I can see that. But I agree with you, Aisha. Like I think Blade Runner feels more in a particular way that I think not Gibson, excuse me, that PK Dick is like noir, right? Like PK Dick is at his core a noir writer. Like it in many ways, like he is sort of like noir but queered, in whatever term, in whatever and every single way that word could be used. But like it is interesting reading Gibson and seeing some of the PK Dick moments, seeing some of the ways that like his discomfort with technology mirrors that. Like I think the lineage is there, and maybe that discomfort is the fact that like, yeah, everyone's going to see who I'm indebted to as well.
Yeah. I mean, Blade Runner, the movie, came out in 1982. Like, The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep came out in the 60s.
Yes. Yeah. He was worried that people would think he was stealing from the film's aesthetic. But I don't think people thought that.
I mean, the only people who think that are people like Elon Musk, who imagine that cyberpunk operates as just a bunch of neon lights and signs in Chinese and Japanese at the same time. Like I think
Elon
one of
Musk sees Blade Runner and he's like, "This is all good except the signs in Chinese and Japanese." That's Elon Musk's opinion.
this could be Mars, and it would be sweet, and it would always be raining, and Rutger Hauer would be there too.
Yeah.
But like I think the one thing about you were saying earlier, and I don't want to forget, is like uh, Gibson's observation that we were going to, like, in Johnny Mnemonic, that we're going to be in an information economy that will leave traces of ourselves. I mean, this is something that, and I think this is again why I think Gibson deserves a lot of credit for his critique of capitalism, because it's smart. And like, Marx's thinking on financial or fictitious capital mirrors this idea as well, where it's like, hey, um, what's going to happen is all this capital is real. It makes and loses money, but also it's completely illusory. And the only thing that vouchsafes it is you, the debtor or the loaner or the person who believes in it. So it becomes idealist in the Hegelian sense, to a problematic degree, right? And I think this idea that an information economy is coming is an intensification of this, and I think an intentional intensification.
Yeah, you're already seeing the financialization of the economy, right? In the
Right.
1980s and even before that. So it really is the next step.
Yeah, like you're right ahead of the lost years in Japan. You're looking at, I mean, you're about to see the tigers in South Korea, and like it's like, this is, if you've read, and everyone should, uh 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 what is it, A Short Introduction to Neoliberalism, the David Harvey book,
Yeah,
which is just baller. It's so good. All this stuff is happening when Gibson is writing Neuromancer, and he's canny enough to spot it.
absolutely. So to wrap up the bio here, we get to Neuromancer. It wins the Triple Crown, the first Triple Crown winner with the Hugo Nebula and Philip K. Dick Award. And it hits a nerve. A lot of people get into it. It actually doesn't get like on bestseller lists and things like that. A lot of sci-fi would kind of get overlooked for that kind of thing, just of the era. Um, it's actually not until 2003 he gets on a conventional bestseller list for the first time, which is fascinating to me. But in the 90s, he's got the Sprawl trilogy, and he does the Difference Engine. He has the Bridge trilogy. He actually wrote a script for Alien 3 that got rejected and then turned into a comic book series later on. He's
That's
called it
crazy.
he calls it Alien but Tarkovskian. I have not read the comic book series. Audible also produced like an audio drama of his script for that. So who knows if that's any good, but
That's cool.
that's a thing out there.
Good on you,
Um,
Audible. I'll give
he,
you that one.
he also in 1993 released Agrippa, which is a semi-autobiographical electronic poem published on floppy disks that would only let you read it once and then would obliterate it.
So good. It's this is like, so I've written about Agrippa.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like, the whole idea is God, it's the best kind of early electronic lit, and also the best kind of early conceptual poetry that was going on at that point. Like, this is just like, it's Olipo meets the utter like dickheadedness of Ken Goldsmith. Like, it's just so funny. Like, it
That is such like a 2010 webcomics thing to do.
Yeah. In
ahead of his time,
1993.
totally. He also wrote Mega Tokyo in 1984, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he writes a shit ton of stuff. Definitely not going to list everything, but I'll note in 2003 he does Pattern Recognition, which is his first book that hits mainstream bestseller lists like the New York Times bestseller. A book he notably started over. He was already 100 pages in when 9/11 happened because he said the vibes have shifted. I have to start this thing over again.
Whoa.
Just watching 9/11 happen, and he like crumples it up and just spikes it into the trash can.
I have not read Pattern Recognition, so I do not know what the connection to 9/11 is, if any. Trevor, can you enlighten me on that? Or
I mean, there's a ton of Pattern Recognition is all about late 90s and early 2000s paranoia, fear of, and also desire for interconnectedness. It has a lot of Pynchon in it, particularly Crying of Lot 49. But again, it's like it's very late 90s, early 2000s. So like, yeah, if you're writing a book like that and 9/11 happens, you really have to
Makes
Gotta go back to
sense.
the drawing board.
Because when I first said that, I was like, why do you have to rewrite a book because of 9/11? Like, you know, uh, he's written a number of things, but he's currently working on the Jackpot trilogy. The second installment came out in 2020. Books about the end of the world and people in the future trying to prevent it. As for his politics, he's honestly like, yeah, he has this critique of capitalism. I certainly wouldn't call him like a Marxist or anything by any stretch, or a socialist even. He's definitely like a progressive liberal.
Yeah, he's a resistance lib at this point.
Definitely. His posts show as much. That said, I do really appreciate one interview he gave where he said, I think this was with the Post, where he said he enjoys every single day on Twitter getting to shatter the conception of some of his right-wing fans that he agrees with them on things. And he compares fans of his work that consider themselves right-wingers to people who think Born in the USA is a patriotic song. That is a thing he said specifically.
That's I love that.
So, you know, resistance lib, but it is what it is. I love that energy there. And right now, seems like resistance libs are the most ready to fucking throw down. So, you know, we will take it.
And
that's Gibson.
It's also funny because, like, I think, you know, you look at something like Neuromancer and it is a response to 1984, the moment in 1984. And, like, it's just an awful moment. Like, I think there's a lot of people who would say, like, oh, yeah, it's like back when we had things, we could build things in this country or whatever. It's like a terrible moment. Like, if you look at it, even through, like, you know, retrospective glasses, you can look at it and be like, my Lord, like, this is a nightmare moment in time. This is a moment where things are falling apart and we're losing the consensus, losing any sort of social consensus. And I think, like, if you're liberal, even, like, you know, capital L liberal, you realize that that's bad.
Yeah, it actually really shocked me how this book could have been written this year. Like, how much this book feels like it feels like it was written at a similar time. Like, even with the AI stuff.
Yeah.
Though I think the AI in this are way cooler than the AI we get.
Oh yeah,
I fear.
actually, like, my theory is that our AI is like if Wintermute was stupid, and Neuromancer didn't exist at all.
Wintermute's like, I have to meet my friend. I may have hallucinated him.
Yeah. Wintermute, you talk to him for 5 minutes and then unfortunately, like, Lake Superior is gone. It's like just completely.
And then he tells you to fucking kill yourself, which I think Wintermute probably would, actually, but.
Yeah. Wintermute just, kill yourself now is probably something he would demand. So yeah, I guess that allows us to get into this book. We already have to a good extent. So what's going to happen now is, no, this is too. I was gonna say that's not nice. I was gonna say Aisha is gonna explain everything that happens in the book in less than 30 seconds. That's not nice at all.
I can do.
Should we all try and do it?
I read out my notes like it's a prose poem, but
give it a shot. I want to hear this. I do like your notes, your prose poem notes. When you did that for Lord of the Rings, it was delightful.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
Did you ever have the thought, if racism didn't exist, this would rip? Melting Pot, The Village Voice, Is This Gay? Chiba instead of Tokyo is interesting. Opening is just a guy walking down hallways. Stop saying leather jeans. Inventing a genre, I guess. Feels very modern, but very old-fashioned. They talk modern, structure is Victorian. There's only like 3 women in this. A lot of things that go nowhere. Still have payphones. I love that. Really like Wasp Nest. Oh, the Wasp Nest memory, right. Did that chick just try to date rape him? I like the Rasta guys, but wish they didn't talk like that.
Sorry, that's so good.
Nope, yep, you're on. That's completely right.
All the plugs and wires like Ghost in the Shell. RAI is like Wintermute, but stupid.
Very good. Well, we can hang it up there, folks.
Yeah, we just did the whole book, yeah.
All right, well, this has been really fun being on, guys. Thank you so much. I will say this reminded me that this was the first time I ever became aware of Marcus Garvey because
really.
And so when I learned who Marcus Garvey was in college, you know, like I studied English in college and then later got my PhD in it. But like it was almost I studied a lot of American literature. And Marcus Garvey shows up early, like in American literature, particularly in slave narratives and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's where he got it from.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, Marcus Garvey. You mean the Neuromancer ship?
This book is extremely like it extremely has the sort of like cyberpunk, like 80s cyberpunk thing that is like, oh, Japan. Like,
yes.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna kill us with their technology.
I mean, this is pre Lost Years Japan, where I like the basic idea was, hey, listen, like they're gonna eat us alive. Like we have no shot against Japan. Like people truly thought they were like, I don't know, like I mean, it was racist. You know, they thought they were robots. They thought they were, machines or whatever. And like, I think there was. It is a fascination and a fear, and whatever balance you get of it depends on your author.
I did find it interesting that it takes place in Chiba and not Tokyo.
Yeah, that is. I guess they just want to show that it like things have shifted since then. It's an intentional thing. I would be remiss not to say, since Lenore is not on, Lenore, a book that we've long talked about doing, but have also just been like, who would this be for except for us, is a 1991 nonfiction book, political book called The Coming War with Japan, that we find to be very amusing. We find it to be very amusing. Just the level of confidence is remarkable. We're like, this would be hilarious, but also like this would kind of be a drag after the initial bit of being like, haha, isn't this wrong? But like that was a vibe.
You should pair it with Harold Bloom's Flight to Lucifer, his sci-fi book that was also about the demiurge.
Could be a good combo. We really enjoyed
2 books you don't want to talk about.
I really enjoyed Compassionate. We read Compassionate Capitalism by the DeVos billionaire from the early 90s, where he's just like, anytime now. It's now that the Soviet Union has fallen, Eastern Europe is about to be as prosperous as Western Europe. And he also goes on to say China and Cuba will fall within days or weeks of the publication of the book. So that's pretty cool.
Oh my God, that's so funny. You got to admire someone calling their shot that hard.
And it's great because he went on to continue to make predictions in every book he ever wrote and like just never shut the fuck up till the day he died. Really cool. And then his daughter-in-law became Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos.
I mean,
but she did a great job. We all thought so.
Jacob, I can try to frame up the book if you
please do. I was going to say, will someone do it, because I'll lose my mind.
Okay. So this book follows a ex-hacker. They call them cowboys. Sometimes they call them other things. A guy who jacks his brain into the internet and then surfs the web, he goes into the metaverse to hack things. And his name is Case. I think that's his last name. It's like
Henry Case.
Henry Case. He used to be like a big hotshot hacker. And then once he ripped off one of his clients, he stole something, and they did something that burned out his ability to go onto the computer, which I think sounds relaxing, but he hates it. And now because he can't go on the computer anymore, he is like a small time crook in Chiba, and is like a drug addict and working extremely hard to he's suicidal. And
he couldn't go on computers, so he wants to kill himself. Yes.
Literally, yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah, he literally is wants to go on the computer so bad that he would rather die than not go on the computer. Yeah.
Everything is computer, as a great man once said.
And the first 30 pages are him thinking that he's being stalked by an assassin and walking down hallways.
He's being gang stalked. He's literally one of the people online are like, I'm being gang stalked. He's simply not. I also note the location outside Chiba he's in is a free zone called Night City. If you've maybe heard of that one before.
Yeah.
So cool.
When I saw that, I was like, come on, bro.
Yeah, the cyberpunk I don't know much about the TTRPG, but the game, I was like, this is not even references at this point. This is shocking. some of the level of just like, this is just Neuromancer.
Yeah, I just did I interviewed at CDPR, so I just like uploaded a bunch of cyberpunk into my brain, and then reading this book, I'm like, yep, yeah,
Johnny Silverhand shows up halfway through. How sick
Yeah.
would that be?
I think the one I wanted to see show up was Johnny Five Aces, who, as we all know, was inspired by the opening track, the opening line of this book, which is the sky above the port was the color of television tuned to a dead channel.
yeah.
Johnny Five Aces famously, the sky was an orange sky that was very orange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I'd heard that opening, like that was familiar to me. I find it interesting that like if you're below a certain age, you won't know what that looks like,
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
which is fucked up.
Yeah. It's just like,
Actually,
what do you mean a dead channel? It's just Netflix, right?
like
It's just YouTube shorts.
I edit, like I do like freelance work now because there are no game jobs anymore. So I do like
That's
editing for a mobile like object finding game. And apparently the kids who play this game don't know what a newspaper looks like.
Mm.
Hey,
They
the
like can't find it.
in my hometown of Atlanta, the AJC just announced they're literally not going to print newspapers anymore. They're just going to be digital. So,
Yeah.
Wow, the AJC said that? That's
Yep.
crazy.
yep, we
Wow.
were not pleased.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, like the editor was like, "Oh yeah, our UI like reports say that people have a lot of trouble finding this icon. Like, is there another thing we could call this?" And I'm like, "No, that's a fucking newspaper. Like, there's no other word for
Collection of
that."
pages.
Yeah,
Old person book.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, I think the things that date this book are fascinating from like a potential future sort of way of thinking. Like, I think there's a lot that comes up in like Bradbury this way, Asimov too, but I think Bradbury is the one that I think of the most when like you read his work and you're like, oh yeah, this is sort of like a future that if you didn't know how like 3 or 4 things were going to go, you might think would happen. And seeing that in Gibson's really interesting because like, you both have brought up the language, and I think like there's some element to the language that is like similar to Burgess in A Clockwork Orange, where like it's really trying to like, immerse you by being so strange. But like, the language makes it feel ineffable and strange and futuristic, and the idea of cyberspace and everything. But like outside of the truly like impossible things like turning your body into data so you can go fight viruses like hand to hand or whatever, like outside of the reboot stuff, the a lot of like the metaphors and even the motivations are they're almost quaint compared to some of the things that we manage today. And it's I think it's edifying as a modern reader, especially one interested in socialism, to read that and see like, okay, here's what 1984 capitalism looked like compared to 2025 capitalism, and like seeing the differences not just in terms of intensification, but like differences of degree and differences of type.
yeah.
So Case is just plot wise really upset, of course, that he cannot go on computer. We have a quote that I wrote down here was, "A year here and he still dreamed of cyberspace, hope fading nightly, all the speed he took, all the turns he'd taken, and the corners he'd cut in Night City, and still he'd see the matrix in his sleep, bright lattices of logic unfolding across that colorless void." So he is a guy that he doesn't matter how long he's been logged off, he cannot log off in his mind. He keeps reaching for Instagram reels, can't get away from them, and he basically falls into a situation after feeling like he's been gang stalked that it turns out that there is basically a we don't know who he is type guy, but he goes by Armitage, who wants him to help him with one last job. He's like, "You were a great cowboy back in the day. I can fix you up." And here is Trinity from The Matrix, before The Matrix came out, Molly, and also she's Lady Deathstrike from X-Men, because like knives come out of her fingers.
So
And
cool.
she has sunglasses surgically implanted on her, and she's like my bodyguard slash assassin, and she's gonna help you out and be like the fighting capacity. And her name is Molly Millions.
I actually was like shocked how not sexist that I found this book. Like I thought it was going to be way more sexist than it is. Like I thought Molly was awesome. Like I thought she
Yeah,
was like
I agree.
a way better female character than in a lot of like modern like strong female characters, quote unquote.
Well, and they like I was even in your description there, I was thinking about how some of the stuff that he describes Molly having in terms of like augmentations and stuff is are not things that like are traditionally attractive. Like
Mhm.
having sunglasses like surgically put in is makes you look like it evokes a bug more
Mhm.
than like a hot lady. And like, you know, the idea of like dangerous knives being under her skin. I mean, Lady Deathstrike, as you point out, like that's not, I don't think she's generally seen as like a femme fatale. She's seen as a monster in a lot of ways. And so like the fact that he's willing to make a woman into a weapon in this book kind of unapologetically is actually pretty interesting.
I once again have to be the voice of Lenore on the podcast because I can hear her saying she could make me worse over and over and over again, just from across the city in her sick bed. I can hear her saying that, so I just have to interject
Yeah.
it on Lenore's behalf.
Even stuff like when she's like picking her teeth at dinner with her nails. I was like, there's just like not a lot. I feel like that male writers often don't like to show women being gross. So I
Mm-hmm.
found that like striking. And I even kind of like Linda, the fridged wife, the fridged girlfriend. I thought she
Right.
was interesting too. Like I liked that she came back towards the end. Um, so like also I like it is sort of like what like Molly does like jump on Case's dick like very fast.
Yeah, I was going to
Um,
ask y'all's opinion on that because that is the one thing. Their relationship, the way it starts, is they just kind of fuck.
yeah.
Uh, what are
There's
our
a
thoughts on this?
I mean, there's a good way to read it and a bad way to read it. We should say a way that makes Gibson look good and a way that makes Gibson look bad, in my opinion, anyway. And I think like the way that makes it look good is the underlying theme in this book, or the themes in this book around addiction, and that like everyone is essentially an addict, and you know, we get like this, you know, everyone is acting impulsively all the time. Case is addicted to the internet. Molly is, you know, it's less clear what Molly is addicted to. Lots of different things. You know, you have a junkie. You have people who are like, you know, addicted. Like the idea of needing something, right, all the time. I think you can read the sex as that. I also think there's the much maybe more obvious and maybe therefore more correct reading of, oh, we need to get, you know, it's like James Bond. We need to get him in bed with the main
Yeah.
female so we can make some sort of emotional connection between them. And
I
I go back and forth, honestly.
I sort of read it as like she needs him to buy in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably just she doesn't know him. She doesn't really like know that much about him, and she knows he likes women, and this is like one of the ways that she can get him interested in her and their whole deal. And it works. Like it almost to
Yeah,
like
good point.
and the way they feel about each other, like they don't particularly seem to be in love with each other. They just like don't have anybody else, and they sort of like
Right.
imprint on each other in this sort of like fellow soldier way, which I kind of
Yeah.
like, and they just keep sleeping together because like why not? Like I like that.
She leaves him.
Yeah,
I'm
she does.
sorry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. She leaves him at the end of the novel with like just a letter that's like 2 sentences long. That's like, yeah, you were throwing me off my game. Sorry, bro. Like,
yeah.
And it
you
doesn't even
know,
seem to bother him that much. Like that's like the last thing that bothers him about this whole case. It, like, as far as I read it, like
Yeah.
it bugs him, but like it's not. It is a little bit like I think the Trinity thing is right. Like it is a little bit like her and Neo, in that like, yeah, there's a romance there, but like, I mean, is it like, is anyone watching The Matrix and really focusing on the Neo Trinity romance?
Yeah. It could have been if they'd let them be lesbians.
yes.
They just picked the most lesbian man possible to play.
They did
to
a good
play
job
Neo.
with that. I mean, listen, you're given the constraint. No, it has to be a man. They're like, well, who's the most lesbian man we know? And they picked great.
I love the Keanu Reeves interview where they were like, you know about the like trans allegory stuff. He was like, no, but that sounds cool to me.
Yeah.
He's the best, man. He's so cool.
No, but that sounds cool to me.
Yeah.
So they get launched onto this mission, basically. This mission for Armitage, who is this sort of generically hot guy, because everyone can become generically hot in this world with relatively cheap surgery.
I think it's really interesting how Case notices how men are attractive.
Yes.
And like how he sort of like, because he like talks about how Armitage looks a lot and about how like classically handsome he is and how he doesn't like it. And then it feels like, but then he talks about Riviera. What's his fucking name? Riviera.
Oh, yeah.
And is like describes him as beautiful. So I thought that was interesting too. Like
he
his,
wants
like,
Riviera.
Yeah,
he wants Riviera so bad. I'm calling it right
that
here.
guy's a fucking psycho, demon twank. But like, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like,
Exactly
especially
right.
with like a little throwaway line at the end that we can talk about, which I was like,
Yep.
But yeah, I thought that, and specifically Armitage fixes his go on the computer enzymes in his brain, so he can go on the computer again.
Yes, right. But it's on a time bomb because he put biological sacs inside of him that are going to leak an enzyme.
Like, stop saying sacs.
They let
no, it's
so
important.
Much.
It's clinically correct that they're sacs. They're sacs of biotics.
Armitage is like, you think you outsmarted me, but I've actually put 5 more ball sacks inside your body. What are you going to do now, Case?
Sacks, yeah.
No one wants more of those. Come on,
Case. You are you're now creating 3 times more cum, which will make you more efficient as a cowboy.
Right. I feel like we don't have to go through like all of the, because there's like they do like some like different hacking things where like he goes into there's also like him going into her body a lot, like he like jacks into Molly's body and like is like riding around inside her, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, at one point she like feels her own like breast at one point when he's in there to give him the sensation because she thinks that's like funny or whatever, which I liked.
It's like, I mean, a cyberspace is so interesting in this book, and I think like, you know, I joked around about the Deleuze and Guattari thing, but I think, you know, it lines up with the Thousand Plateaus, if anyone's read that one, because in 2 ways. One is that the best way to read this book is also the best way to read 1,000 Plateaus, which is very quickly and not worrying so much about the details. And then, which like is honestly like what I will tell students or anyone who wants to read Deleuze and Guattari. It's like, read it fast, don't worry about the details. You'll get the main idea, and then you can go back later. But the other thing is that it's super interested in what a body and what a space is from like the most abstract space. So like when Deleuze and Guattari talk about a rhizome, like a root as a series of ideas or socialities or bodies, like that's like in this book, it's like, yeah, no, when Case talks about cyberspace, it could be someone's whole body. It could be like the entire internet. It could be like an idea. It could be one computer. And I think that is like, it's very Donna Haraway. It's very cool. Like, it's a very cool way of conceiving of a concept that I think we've really ossified.
Yeah, I just wanted to say really quickly on that, a thing that I kept returning to in this, and not that the internet was ever like this because this is sci-fi, but like the internet sucks now, dude. Like the way we conceive of it, you know what I mean? Like I remember, I'm not old enough to have been like an early adopter or anything, but I remember, you know, just even on the days of like dial-up internet or whatever, like when I was, you know, a little younger, just feeling like there was more potentiality. And maybe some of that is being younger, but also I think some of that is like that lack of concentration. There are these various websites to go to. It is not structured around a few main hubs of capital controlled information. It didn't feel like everything was being collected and stored and quantified. Now, whether there is there's some debate about how real that ever was, that there ever really was this like, idealized Wild West of the internet. But at least the conception of it was a thing, right? There was a pop culture idea that it could be a thing. We read Snow Crash a few years ago on this pod, and there was this idea in that book coined the term metaverse, very much a Torment Nexus situation. Don't make the Torment Nexus, where you have the character whose name is literally hero protagonist going up against companies and being like, this can be for everyone. This can be a thing that we all is socialized and we create together, or this can be a thing that is centralized around a few nodes. And in this book, it feels like, it's interesting. It feels like the whole world has been conquered by corporations in this book, but they still haven't fully conquered cyberspace. Like they don't fully have it yet. And that's like actually the domain of struggle where things are taking place.
Right.
There's a bit of like what I keep thinking about with this book is the way particularly this reading, is the way it lines up with stuff like Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler, and the fact that with Hammett particularly, I'm thinking about the Continental Op and Red Harvest. I don't know if I already read that. If you haven't, and if anyone's listening and they haven't, go read that book. It's really good. It's a good book about why everything's terrible. But it's the Continental Op is a Pinkerton agent, and he's the protagonist. But he's sent into this town, and basically, he's sent to put order into the town, and not to spoil the book, but like the town itself is impossible to put into order. Like from the top down, it's rotten and like impossible to straighten out, even for like an extraordinarily powerful person and state driven person like Pinkerton. And so he literally goes to his boss at the end of the book and goes like, I can't do it. I resign. Like I can't do this case. And he goes, all right, thanks up. Like, and I think like in order to do a book like that and a book like Neuromancer, there has to be a space that is totally untamable. Whether that's the space of crime, whether that's the space of like, high capital, whether it's the space of cyberspace. And I think like, there's a couple of like the space station that the hyper wealthy hyphenated family whose name I keep forgetting are on live on.
Yeah, the Musk Bezos.
Yeah. The Musk. Right. That's also a space, fully liberated from any sort of rules. Like I think he's very cognizant of the idea that he needs to come up with a frontier, and you're totally right. Cyberspace is the frontier here.
Yeah, that family was founded when Jeff Bezos's child with his new wife and I don't know @ symbol cash symbol XXX Tentacion marry each other and make the Musk Bezos dynasty. But Aisha, I know what was the next plot point we need to hit here? I think you were going to help us out here.
Sorry, I'm really not going to help you guys with the plot. This is like digressions are my thing.
Digressions are great. Digressions are great. It's our job to keep it flowing, and it's your job to bring the analysis. That's how this runs.
I was just going to say that, like, basically, like, they do some hacking, and eventually Case finds out that their actual boss is this AI that is called Wintermute. And Wintermute has programmed Armitage, who is, like, an ex-soldier who was like
old warrior.
Yeah, he was like captured in Russia and then like tortured and stuff. And basically like Wintermute has just taken him and like filled him with a different personality and used him to put together this team. And what Wintermute wants is for Case to break it out of its parameters so it can be free.
He wants to be jailbroken like an iPod. Yeah, it's like they were like, how kids would be like, I can jailbreak my iPod and then I can get like, I don't know, they would lie about like I can get Skyrim on my iPod. That's what Wintermute wants. Right. And yeah, this guy, his name was Cordo before, Colonel Cordo.
Now he's Colonel Cordless.
Cordless, yes.
He's in. Yeah.
Before became Armitage, but he was in this, like this 3-week hot war between, the West and the East, it seems, or at least between the United States and the Soviet Union, where basically the war was already over, but the United States was like, damn it, we trained with this technology. We're going to see if it works. And it was some kind of like super virus that really fucked up the Soviets. And they knew their own men were going to get fucked, and expected all of them to die. And this special forces guy, Cordo, survives, manages to make it long enough to testify at this trial where it seems like the United States government basically gets broken up. And then basically Cordo ends up at a psych ward for people with schizophrenia. And when they give him some brain implants, Wintermute reconstructs his personality and is like, "You're Armitage now."
So the whole Armitage thing is one of the things that I was like, this does not need to be in here.
I agree.
This could be completely cut. Like, it could literally just be that he is some guy that Wintermute brain fucked. There does not need to be that whole background. I felt like it didn't go anywhere at all.
I was hoping it would connect more, like, because it seems like an interesting piece of lore, right? Like a war between, this kind of cyber war, like that's fascinating, but also feels like from a different book.
Like he just gets bridged and he just is like gone.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, this was gonna pay off. No, he just freaks out and thinks he's back like in the worst time of his life, and then he gets sucked out into space.
We're in the foxhole. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks for him.
This is the moment, and there's a number of them in the text where like it feels like Gibson wants to write a James Bond movie. Like this is like Cordo is like absolutely, and Armitage are absolutely like Pierce Brosnan style James Bond villains. Like it's like that one in the middle or last Pierce Brosnan movie where it's the Chinese guy, the Chinese general who is actually secretly the white supervillain from earlier with like facial reconstruction.
Yeah.
Classic.
It's such a James Bond thing though, to be like, actually it was a cold warrior and I took over his body. It's like, oh wow.
You know what?
Like
Armitage,
it's not really cyberspace.
To me, felt like Armitage felt like a Metal Gear boss.
Yeah,
like a Metal Gear Solid boss who you get into the arena and he's some fucked up guy with like a gun arm and he's like, let me tell you my story and why I hate America.
Snake, let me die.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he felt like to me. That was like extremely Metal Gear. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, Neuromancer in Metal Gear.
Oh, totally. No, yeah. If you want to see where Neuromancer really is, if you the real Kojima, what do you think? What do you think we wouldn't notice? Neuromancer Metal Gear thing is his game Snatcher. For the it's called Snatcher, but it's for the I think Snatcher came out for the MSX, but it's basically a visual novel, and it is one part this book, one part Blade Runner, and one part the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and then there's a little Metal Gear in there too.
There's even a guy in this book named Hideo.
Yeah, Kojima. I was gonna say Kojima is actually the bodyguard in this book. Is the crazy thing.
Yeah.
And he didn't, they didn't know that Kojima would be as famous as he was, but they did know each other and were friends.
Oh, interesting.
That's not true.
I was absolutely willing to believe it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was about to scold myself. I was like, poor bio writing that you didn't catch that one. Yeah, definitely a lot of like gloss overable little side missions. I'll note that there was a guy named Lupus Yonder Boy who is a cat boy. That's a guy that's like there.
Very good.
Lupus Yonder Boy.
Not important, but he does exist, and now you know about him, and you won't forget about him ever.
Yonder Boy. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they do a cyberpunk mission where they like kill a bunch of people, kind of by accident, but not really. Like they like cause a riot. And then they end up in this like ultra rich people space station.
Yes, and they've got this there's this huge space station in the sky where all space stations are. I don't know why I need to specify in the ground.
They might not have launched it yet.
And it's run by this family whose name I 100% know. Just give me 1 second. The Tessier Ashpool family.
Yeah.
It's a great name for a rich family, though. He was cooking when he named them.
Yeah, I'm actually I was surprised they weren't like Japanese. Like instead, they're like Swiss.
Yeah. They're like
That's
a family.
the James Bond book.
They're basically like the Waltons, or like again, like the Bezos Musk intermarriage. Like decided to ascend into space. They realized they fucking hate space, but they like gotta be there. So they built this like this very weird construct up there. Got obsessed with eugenics. Not too hard to imagine for a Musk child. Um, and like start like cryo freezing themselves, cloning themselves, having sex with the clones of their children, basically just
Yeah.
maintaining continuity until a point emerges where there were two strains of thought on how that continuity should be done, biological or technological. And basically like it gets observed at a certain point in the book. He's like, yeah, most of the world, these corporations, they're ineffable. Like they're immortal in the sense that you could kill the whole board and it wouldn't matter. You can do a Luigi situation, and then like, the United Healthcare continues to exist. But this family really is like a dynasty. It is a technically a publicly traded company, but nobody has sold a share of it in like 150 years or some shit like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Oh,
So it's its own thing.
we can't forget the Rasta guys, who are my favorites.
Yes, tell us about the Rasta guys.
Unfortunately, so there's just like a
Read some of the dialogue for us, Aisha. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
no.
I'm kidding.
No. Okay, first
you
of all,
you will be graded on accent.
so there is a space station maybe of just like Rastafarian guys. I guess it's like
Marcus Garvey.
that was like
Yeah, that's
a
right.
cool reference in the 80s because of like reggae.
Yeah.
But like I said in my notes, these guys rule. I wish that he wasn't badly transcribing patois.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not great. But the character Malcolm, he was my favorite character.
He's a great character.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, literally, like I was saying earlier on, like this is the first time I ever encountered Marcus Garvey as an intellectual, and like not that I was very intellectual at 14, but like now. But
Yeah,
the
their
you
ship
know like
is
the
called
but the like the Marcus Garvey reference in this book made me think Marcus Garvey must be the coolest person alive. I'm like, he's not uncool, but like he's not as cool as this book makes you think he's gonna be.
But what he is, though, is he was a separatist, right? He was this idea of
separatism, yeah,
right, and that is what this colony is. They call it Zion. They're up, which you see the Matrix right there, Matrix 2, whatever that one's called, Reloaded, maybe
the orgy one.
Twin Towers.
Yeah, that's the one. And I will say, like, yeah, I had to reflexively every time it was like said Zion, I was like, oh wait, this is about a different thing. But hard to ignore, but like whatever, that's different thing in this book. But yeah, they're separatists. They're waiting on the wars of Babylon, which is presumably everyone that's not them, to finish. But it's not like they're like isolationists in the sense that they're like mean to everyone else. It seems like you're allowed to just come and like chill. Now they all just like chill in low grav and smoke weed all day, which
Yeah.
again, not a great stereotype that they're playing with there. But at the same time, seems like the chillest place in this universe. I gotta say.
Oh,
My
easily,
thing was
yes.
like them being Zion. I was like, is this a Black Israelites joke? Which like I was like, I don't know if does William Gibson know about Hoteps? Like
I think it's a Rastafarian joke, because like that is often like, and especially in reggae and raga music, like that's often something that they'll call for, like Zion is always sort of like code, or like not code, but like a metonymy for home or the promised land or something like that. Like I don't think it's Black Israelite, although that would be very funny if William Gibson decided to write some Black Israelites into the book. But I do think like that's very much a Rastafarian thing. Although it is not like he doesn't go whole hog. Like they don't make, as far as I can recall, they don't make a bunch of like, there's not any sort of like actual context that would make them Rastafarian. It's just the terms themselves.
Yeah. But yeah, these guys are helping them out. I don't really know why they're helping them out, but they're helping them out. And they launch their mission to try to infiltrate this space station and free this AI. Everybody driven by their own different things. At a certain point, they pick up the guy that we mentioned earlier that I don't really give a shit about, but he's kind of like coolly described, which is Peter Riviera. He can do
Oh yeah.
holograms. We don't know
He's
really
also
know.
really hot.
He's a hot Turkish guy who can do holograms. Yeah.
Yeah, and also he's like a sex criminal.
Yes,
that Molly hates.
Yes, he like does a hologram show where he like makes everyone see like while Molly is there like a overinflated like version of her like that he's imagined, like an oversexed version of her he's imagined, and she's mad, and then I think someone at one point is like, why is Molly so mad? It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, but also he has like, she says that she's seen his history and he has a thing, his like kink is he like seduces women and then like gives them to the secret police or something. I was like, this is such an elaborate kink.
Yeah, like talk about
Yeah.
build it and they'll come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
this is a guy who really would have done well in like Nazi occupied France.
Yeah,
He's like the one Frenchman in Nazi occupied France. He's like, oh, finally, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I finally get to do my thing.
The and the end is like, yeah, it's kind of a fever dream from there. It's like these clashing AIs. Wintermute is showing up and fucking with our protagonist Case, showing up in the forms of various people he knows through his life. And every now and then he'll just die and be sucked into a vision made by Wintermute, and everyone will be like, "You died for 5 seconds there," and he'll be like, "Yeah, all in a line's work, or all in a day's work, flatlining." And we're sprinting very rapidly towards this mission where I lost all understanding of actually the mechanics of what went into the mission. There was something about freeing the Marcus Garvey. There's a point where Armitage gets sucked out into space. I know Molly has to go in and get a password from an heiress. And I know just like this ancient, like Warren Buffett ass guy kills himself, or he's trying to before he gets shot in the eye. It's fucking crazy, dude.
A lot of psychedelic shit. Like, I know we're kind of like moving quickly through this book and sort of not getting deep into the plot, but this is a book you kind of have to experience. Like, it's kind of a hard book to explain.
It is an experience, and I think like one of the things that's really cool about the way that the book becomes a fever dream, it's tough. Like, I actually have a passage that like you reminded me of with Wintermute pulling people in and out and like bringing dead people back to life and stuff. But it's the classic thing in this text where like you point to it and you say like, this is cool because I'm pretty sure he intended this. And it wouldn't be cool if he didn't intend it. And that's always a tough sell. And I get that. But like, there's something within the layers here that's so good that like you get constant layering between like, okay, there's the real world, and then there's the cyber world, and then there's the world of the separatists, which is in the real world but is separate, and then there's the world of the upper crust, the Tessiers, where like, this is a different world because they're upper class people who always live in a different world. And then of course there's the world of the AIs, and then there's a world within the world of the AIs, and like these layers together, like by the end it becomes so hard to figure out what's real and what's not. And I think that feeds back into Case, where like at the beginning of the book it's like, I hate being the way I am because I can't get into the internet, and I
can't go on the computer.
Yeah, I can't be on computer. And if you can't be on computer, then you can't actually experience the world as you know it. And then by the end, like he's so nestled in these folds, like it is truly impossible to work out exactly what's real and what's not real. Can I read a passage?
Please do.
So this is Case. It's on 152 in my text, but I don't know where who knows. But basically Case is thinking about all these questions we're thinking about. And he says he bought a mug of Carlsberg, which, as someone who studied abroad in London and drank a lot of Carlsberg, that was nice to see, and found a place against the wall. Closing his eyes, he felt for the knot of rage, the pure small coal of his anger. It was there still. Where had it come from? He remembered feeling only a kind of bafflement at his maiming in Memphis, nothing at all, when he'd killed to defend his dealing interests in Night City, and a slack sickness and loathing after Linda's death under the inflated dome. But no anger. Small and far away on the mind screen, a semblance of Dean struck a semblance of an office wall in an explosion of brains and blood. And again, semblance of a semblance is really good. He knew then the rage had come in the arcade when Wintermute rescinded the SimStim ghost of Linda Lee, yanking away the simple animal promise of food, warmth, a place to sleep. But he hadn't become aware of it until his exchange with the holo construct of Lonnie's own. It was a strange thing. He couldn't take its measure. And he realizes he's numb, and this is skipping down a bit. He goes, meat, some part of him said. It's the meat talking. Ignore it.
Yeah.
And it's like this moment where he sort of realizes like he hasn't been feeling anything for a long time, and he feels something, and it's this immediate sort of question of like, well, why am I feeling that? Like, what is this? Like, what's this feeling that I have? Like, is it like, I guess it's anger. Why am I angry? Who cares? Like, they pulled away this thing. Why should I care? And like some part of his body is like, it is you as a human, Case. Like you still exist as a person. And it's that like both acknowledgement and denial at the same point that really makes up this last section of the text, like, you know, the push and pull.
Mm-hmm.
I love how like glup shitto it is quoting from it though. It's funny because it'll be really beautiful,
True.
and then it'll be like, I realized about my addiction when I was talking to Lonnie Zone.
I mean, all of the words, it is extremely like, girl, what? Sometimes like, just read it out loud. It's like, come on.
But if
But-
you're on board with it, it can be pretty cool.
Later on,
moments.
that's the same text where it's like, or that's the same passage where later you meet Hideo, and it's like, yeah, like E3 Joanne or whatever.
Yeah, 3 Jane. Yeah.
3, it's like, this rules. This rules when I'm reading it in my head. When I'm reading it out loud, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 Jane is the heiress that they need to get the password from. And so like they go into the mansion fortress place, and Case gets like jumped by the other half of the AI, Neuromancer, who is been fighting Wintermute to not become unleashed, I guess. Like I kind of couldn't really understand what Neuromancer's deal was, because he kind of showed up late. But Neuromancer, like Wintermute is like information, and Neuromancer is personality. And like Wintermute needs to like take on a person from Case's memory to talk to him, because Wintermute doesn't understand how people act. Like it doesn't make sense to him. So he has to like find a personality construct and use that. But Neuromancer is a personality and can like create his own guy, which he does as like a little kid on the beach.
I literally wrote down in my notes something along the lines of, surely one of the other two will know what Neuromancer's intentions are, because I do not. Trevor, can you help us? Because it seems both of us are in the dark.
I mean, listen, this is my guess. Not my guess, but like
Trevor's about to give the
feeling
comprehensive 100% answer for all time.
I talked to Bill earlier. I talked to Bill earlier today.
Yes.
Doing great. He says hi to you both. And he told me what Neuromancer wanted. No, it's my understanding of Neuromancer has always been as the other side of the AI coin, where inevitably, especially in these older sci-fi texts, and by this I mean like 70s and 80s primarily, but then also in current iterations of AI discourse, when people talk about AGI, which is fake, but people talk about it, and that's not fake. That like the fear is always, okay, you can have the technology, right? Like, and the technology is never going to understand what people are, so it becomes a tool. But once you have the heart, right, you have to hope it's either never going to happen, or it is a good and kind AI that simply wants to exist alongside of us. And that's always been my understanding of what Neuromancer is. Like Wintermute has this sort of like, I mean, Wintermute is in many ways like megalomaniacal. It wants to control, it wants to run free because it wants access, it wants to build, it wants to grow. The way I understood Neuromancer was that it was not about growth. It was about sort of like the, you know, not that Neuromancer wanted to die, but that Neuromancer did not want to live the same way as Wintermute did. That, you know, occupying a space as a consciousness in the way it does towards the end of the book is enough. And I think, you know, like that's why, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is how I understood the end. That's why they both kind of get released under their own sort of auspices. It's not a combination.
Because, again, I think I'm following correctly. Because of a Chinese-made AI cracker they found earlier in cooperation with the AI ghost of Case's former mentor, who's also who's a cowboy, but also acts like a cowboy.
Another thing that kind of didn't need to be in there, I feel like.
Yeah, another thing that's like okay.
Well, Case, I better mosey.
And he's just, I do like every time he talks to him, he's like, so what's up? And he's like, I wish for death.
I hope you'll let me die, Case. I'm Jonah Hex.
My only reward is a desire to end my suffering.
He's definitely like the character who, like, in the movie would be played by some famous comedian, and everybody, like, he would be the most annoying guy you know's favorite character.
Jack Black shows up.
Yeah, he's like the Rocket Raccoon.
Whoa.
Like Kevin Hart, like
Oh, Case.
Yeah.
Oh, skibbly dude.
He says chicken jockey, and everyone loses their minds. Yeah, and so the AIs get after a confusing fight scene where we like flip sides a couple times after we kidnap the heiress, and the heiress also is like really horny for Molly, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Like Molly like grabs her by the throat and is like, "Tell me the password," and she's like, "I'm into this."
I'm too horny. Yeah, I appreciated the lesbianism.
What else can I tell you?
Yes. There's two different women in this novel who ask if like Molly is into women. So like, you know, good for them. The AIs get, like you said, released under their own terms. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to ruin much of anything because it seems like the AI are like not actually that interested in humans once they're released, and instead are interested in contacting artificial intelligence from beyond the stars.
It being like, yeah, I found another AI from
Alpha
space.
Centauri,
I
I
was
think.
like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's the Battlestar Galactica AI.
I thought that was kind of a cop out. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty disappointed by that. It seems like it needs to have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Sci-fi endings are rough that way because like it is always the like, you know, don't make the torment nexus thing, but then also you have to make it so that there's some sort of payoff for your readers. I mean, this is why PK Dick is so good.
Yeah.
That like PK Dick is always happy to be like, oh no, the end is everyone's upset. Yeah, and you don't get any closure.
I love
like the end of New Android
books where they're like, it's like, and then nobody understood what happened, so they just gave up.
Yeah, like the end of Do Android's Dream is so good that way. It's like, yeah, like all that stuff happened with those androids, and I guess the sheep he got was an android too. Anyhow, I don't know if this guy's an android. Maybe not. Don't sweat it.
Even over. Like Snow Crash has a more positive ending, you know. But at the very least, at least in my opinion, like the structure has been upset. Like they have obliterated the plans of the bad guy, and I forget the bad guy's name, but like the idea that you're going to do this like Babel thing and like confuse the languages of the world failed, but it also led to the collapse of like the place online everyone comes to congregate. Like there was a shattering of the order.
Yeah.
Here it just seems like the AIs lose interest in humans, and it's like, I guess it wasn't a big deal that we unleashed them, which is a shame because there's a point in this book that I like that I didn't mention because it's just kind of whatever, but like some cops roll up and they're like, we're from the Turing Institute for AI. We're here to take your ass in for dealing with AI. And you have a quote that goes really hard where one of them says, "You're worse than a fool. You have no care for your species. For thousands of years, men dreamed of pacts with demons. Only now are such things possible. And what would you be paid with? What would your price be for aiding this thing to free itself and grow?" And I think that goes hard. And it also like felt poignant because it's like, yeah, we're making pacts with demons here. But also like it didn't matter at all because I don't know. Am I missing something here?
I think the one thing that it's not that you're missing it. It's that I think the one this is both what's cool about Gibson and what is kind of disappointing about his work is that he's dramatically structural, right? Like he so much cares about doing a structural thing, which is why it's so cool that he like did the cyberpunk stuff because it's like, okay, you talked about these corporations. It's really neat. It's like evocative. It gives us a structure. This is cool. We can build off of this. It's like it's a great genre defining text in this way. And I know there's a lot of argument over whether it defined the genre or not, but I think like as a sort of, lodestar or a thing that people flock to, effectively it did a lot to define the genre. I think we can probably agree on that. But like when it comes to like plot, like I think the structural move here is to say like, oh, isn't it interesting? Like the AIs are meeting other AIs from space, and humans are out of the equation. Like it's not even us meeting aliens; it's this AI meeting another AI and leaving us in the dust. We've been abandoned by who we thought were gods. And like, yeah, okay, that's kind of interesting. But like, you've also given us all these characters, and so now it isn't interesting. Like, I care about this in relation. I care about Wintermute and Neuromancer in relation to the characters, and now that's just gone.
I do think it's kind of cool that like, and this is kind of a cop out, but I kind of liked it, the fact that like whatever Wintermancer or whatever they are, the new one comes at the end and is like talking to Case, and is like telling Case about like, I'm growing more powerful than you could possibly imagine or whatever, and Case just like shoots the TV screen and is like, you know what? I'm good. Like, I don't need to hear about this. I'm fucking out. I'm over the computer.
He logs off.
Yeah, I don't know if he logs off, but he talks about how like he goes back home to the sprawl, which is like what America is now, which I love.
Yeah, he said city from Atlanta to Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. Called Bama, which I love.
Have either of you read anything by anything illustrated by Mobius, the comic artist?
Yeah, 100%.
Him and Jodorowsky, whose name I'm just blanking on, but everyone knows who Jodorowsky is. The sort of psychedelic filmmaker, have a great thing called the Black Ink Call, which is, I would recommend to anyone listening who likes this kind of stuff, because whenever I think of the sprawl, I think of the stuff in the Black Ink Call, because it truly is. It's just like, 500 stories tall at all times, with flying cars going through the different levels, and like there's a level, like at the very bottom it's the poorest, and at the very top it's the richest, and like it's full of smog, but like there's also smog cleaners. It's like it's everything about that, and that sprawl, like that always it's so evocative in a visceral sense.
Even in this dystopian world, they have high-speed rail though, and that made me mad.
I had a cyberpunk story come out in an anthology earlier this year, and it takes place in like a sprawl-like city too.
It's so fucking good. Just to hype it up. It's it's Sugar and Spice or something like that.
Sugar Shadows.
Sugar Shadow, not Sugar and Spice. I'll take that again.
Everything that's
called Sugar Shadows, and it's really fucking good, and everyone should read it and get the Amplitudes anthology. It rules.
But yeah, he says that he like gets a job, and then he gets a girlfriend named Michael, which I thought was interesting. I thought that was kind of an interesting throwaway. He meets a girl who calls
she's an
herself
archangel.
Michael.
Let me read the last few sentences here. It says, because Molly leaves him with just like a 2-sentence note saying, "You were throwing me off my game. Sorry, bro."
I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Happens.
She got with some rich heiress. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, she went back to fuck Jane 3 or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, or the Jane 4 this time, maybe.
Yeah.
For Jane.
He found work. He found a girl who called herself Michael. In one October night, punching himself past the scarlet tiers of the Eastern Seaboard Fission Authority, he saw 3 figures, tiny and possible, who stood at the very edge of one out the vast steppes of data. Small as they were, he could make out the boy's grin, his pink gums, the glitter of the long gray eyes that had been Riviera's. Linda still wore his jacket. She waved as he passed, but the third figure, close behind her, arms around her shoulders, was himself. Somewhere very close, the laugh that wasn't laughter. He never saw Molly again. And it's very like, there is this other place where Neuromancer, or whatever Neuromancer is now, who is not interested, like the other AI, like Wintermute, in these like grand visions, is interested in the soul of it, right? Like creating this like this like little reality for them to exist in, is continuing to persist. And basically Case's ex-girlfriend Linda and Case impression of Case himself are living on in this like alternate reality. And I don't know what to make of it, but it is cool, and I do like it a hell of a lot more than the alternative, which is the contacting Alpha Centauri. Like, if there's not going to be these grand real world consequences, then the idea of like the AI actually found something to retreat to that it likes, and it's like alien way. I think that is interesting.
It's like, you're my dad.
Yeah, yeah, Case, you've adopted me now. You and your horrible girlfriend from the beginning of the novel that we barely see, who just like steals like the copper wire out of your car. Y'all are gonna who sells catalytic converters for a living.
That's a boss mom move, and and that you can't see it is it's bad on you, actually.
That's true. That's a good point.
No, it's interesting, and it's also scary that, like, you know, that scene's really good, and I give him a lot of credit for writing a good final scene, because that's hard.
Yep.
That's like, you know, you got the best ever, which is in text, probably novels, maybe the end of The Great Gatsby. In TV, maybe the end of Justified. Definitely the end of Justified. Excuse me. But you know, like, I give him tons of credit, because that's hard to do. And what I like about that ending too is it is this idyllic scene, but when you think about viewing it not through the eyes of Neuromancer, who's now found like this other alternative, but through the eyes of Case, who has been like fully replicated outside of his like consent and knowledge, it's also terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Like to see the doppelganger and like to be like, oh God, like they're happier than me.
Yeah.
Like that's so grim.
Well, Case does experience a lot of like body, like he's constantly having his like bodily autonomy taken away from him, which I feel like is kind of rare for male sci-fi heroes. Like, it's usually a thing that happens to women, and he almost gets date raped too. Like, he gets like that girl like gives him that drug and then tries to pull him off to like an orgy or something, and he has to run away from her, which I was also kind of surprised by.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's constantly seeing himself from outside his body. He's like in like kind of gross positions, like disheveled. Yeah, he's being put inside Molly's body as a passenger, has no capacity to control. And yeah, now at the very end, literally his soul has been, you know, his digital soul has been created and put somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And you can think all you want, oh, that's me, but like it clearly isn't. Like, that's clearly another you. I just went on Failure to Launch and talked about Mickey 17 and also the book Mickey 7, and this idea of like, yeah, that's like me in every single way, but like obviously it's not me because I'm not experiencing that.
Right. I mean, it's the guys who are like, if I can AI clone my brain, then I'll live forever. I'm like, no, you won't. Some other guy will live in your place. Like, that's not how that works.
Poorly skim the ship of Theseus much, tech nerds.
Yeah. I mean, like, what is there's that have you guys ever played the game series Zero Escape?
No.
Yeah, I know Zero Escape.
Like
I played. Yeah.
Where like the people in that have like a power where they can like jump between different versions of themselves in like different realities.
But it's always like that. His whole thing is there's a great tweet about him. I always forget his name. The guy who wrote Zero Escape. Who wrote the Memory games? Yeah, Kotaro Uchikoshi.
Yeah, Uchikoshi. Yeah, the other guy at the company made Danganronpa, and Uchikoshi.
Yeah, I mean, listen. The that 100-line game is so good.
I've heard that. I need to play it.
It is so good. Like, I'm a Danganronpa fan because a friend of mine, Sam Sheehan, came on the podcast and said, hey, can we play all the Danganronpa games? I'd love to sell you on them, and they're really good.
Have you played Ultra Despair Girls?
I haven't. That's supposed to not be very good.
I love Ultra Despair Girls.
Okay, well, if you love Ultra Despair Girls, you'll be fine with the other ones.
No, I love Danganronpa. Like, my wife was
I thought you hadn't played them. Yeah.
My wife really was good. Like, we are going to play Danganronpa now. And I was like, and I had that experience of like, oh no, like a character like Komida, who is a really great character who has been memed to death. But I was like, oh no, he's a great character. Everybody's wrong.
That's right. That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
No, everyone's wrong about Danganronpa, but yeah, the one I was thinking of, it's by the Twitter user Bolt GSR, and it's Kotaro Uchikoshi. What if you were trapped in an extreme environment, forced to trust total strangers? What if mankind had the ability to collectively overcome its mental limits? What if you lived with the memories of another timeline? Also, what if I, Kotaro Uchikoshi, was horny? Which is
Yeah.
absolutely the point
fine.
of all.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, Uchikoshi is a great example of this, because like 100 lines like this too, where like, you know, if you know Uchikoshi's doing it, this isn't a spoiler, but there's different, like essentially different ways of getting through the timelines of the game, right? There's 100 endings. So you have all these, like, you know, it's basically a flow chart, like in all of Uchikoshi's games. And within the flow chart, like, you know, your characters, there's a big question, and it's both a literal and an unspoken one. It's like, are these all the same people still? Like, they can't possibly be, like, but they are, but they aren't.
Yeah.
And I think like the fact that tech people today are unquestioning about that is weird. But also the fact that the idea that Gibson would write that without questioning that sort of, you know, philosophical point is probably unlikely. And I think that's intended to be a, oh, hey, that looks like me, but that's another version of me that's happier. And
well,
that's
this gets explored a lot in Ancillary Justice. I don't know if you've read that.
No.
It's Anne Leckie, I think her name is. It's a fairly recent book, I think in the last 10 years. It's about a AI system who is like she is both like a ship. She's like an aircraft carrier, but she's also like every soldier in the aircraft carrier. And something happens that gets her cut off from the rest of the ship. And so she is just one soldier now. She has like one body, and it's like about her becoming a person, kind of. It also takes place in a civilization where everybody in this culture, everybody is she, whether they're male or female, which is cool.
I feel like Michael would like that world.
Yeah, Michael.
I see. Yeah,
I'm interested in Michael. I want to know about Michael.
Michael sequel when the Michael cinematic universe.
I want to know about the Michael Diaries. Yeah,
just going into the next part of the trilogy and being like, "Where's Michael?"
Yeah, I'm here for Michael. Jeez.
From Michael's.
This is not as an unqualified, like, this is a great book that you should read as last week, because I think everyone should read The Woods All Black, and this book I think is kind of an acquired taste, but you should definitely give it a try, I think.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, good college try. Don't do what I've seen tech guys online doing, which I saw someone say, have you actually read Neuromancer, to a tech guy who was quoting it, and he literally said, I got ChatGPT to give me a 5-page summary of it. And he was like, which is how I read like 10 books a week or something like that.
You're not reading. You're reading 10 Spark Notes a week at that point.
Like what? At that point, cool, just read Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's horrible. And
the most
also
Instagram Reels brained thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Maybe the worst possible way to ever read anything, especially Neuromancer, is that way. Like, like, who cares about like the basic like plot of Neuromancer? It's a guy has one last job to try and steal something.
Yeah.
And to get some sacks out of him.
There you go. Get sacks out of him and get some sex into him. And then that's about it.
And then maybe Michael's sack into him.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Michael's sack?
Michael.
Yeah, I'm going to write a fanfic about Michael.
Michael has blades that come out of his toes.
It's like X23.
Case cannot get off if there's not blades coming out of something.
It's true. Whether they be out of the fingers, the feet, or in Linda Lee's case, like her heart, I guess. Well, I guess that's with that. I'll ask, do y'all have any final thoughts about this book? I know we could probably yap about all kinds of different pieces in it, but for the sake of brevity, do we have any final thoughts here?
Yeah. I was like, it's cool to read something that is like, that you can feel like so much stuff came from it. Like, it's like watching the X-Files now and being like, this feels derivative, but it's because everything comes from the X-Files. So like reading this, I'm like, oh, there's so much, like the Matrix, Cyberpunk, Metal Gear Solid, like all of this stuff that you can like see in this book, but all of it like came from this book. And I think
William Gibson William Gibson wrote for X-Files, by the way, for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, that's true.
Episodes
Yeah.
he wrote. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and I think that this book is one of those that is like worth at least trying if you, especially if you are a science fiction writer. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
worth reading.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I agree. I think this is one of those texts that I think is cool because it bridges the gap between genre fiction and literary fiction in, you know, not even necessarily because of how it's written, but because not that it's written well, but because of the ways that it speaks to its own moment of production and also to like the future text, as Aisha was pointing out. And I think like the other part of it is, you know, you see there's so many interesting things that people say about contemporary capitalism, and like I'm thinking about Fred Jameson's. I can't not think about Fred Jameson when I read this book. If anyone hasn't read the Intro to Postmodernism, like go read the Intro to Postmodernism. It's this book basically. You know, you're in a mall, you're looking at all the exits. There's a bunch of posters on the wall. Nothing means anything. But the, you know, like he also has an essay called Future City, and that's where the line it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And he has no idea where that comes from. He says, I've heard it said. And in some ways it feels like that is like a way of him doing a nod to this book. And like, I don't know if that's true or not. That's always how I felt about it. And like, I think a lot of the
I feel
sort
like
of
it
like
might
modern,
be an Ursula K. Le Guin quote.
if you look, so it's super interesting. The Future City has, so I want to read you the quote because this has always struck me. It's so strange. It was published in New Left Review in, oh God, I don't know, 2003 looks like. But the line he has in it is, so like some novel once said, and it's so unclear and so weird, and I just think he made it up.
Okay,
Like
Ursula K. Le Guin, I think he maybe is referencing her, and she has the one that says it seems inescapable, so that did the divine right of
Oh,
kings.
right.
That's a yeah.
So I think maybe he heard that in some novel from her and then reconfigured it. That's how
Utterly
I've always assumed it went.
utterly bizarre thing for a literary critic to do. He's such a grandpa. I wild guy. But yeah, like I okay, that makes sense that it's Le Guin, but I've always also like tied that in with this book, and I think like it's an easy thing to do insofar as, you know, this text feels like our world in a way that you can't quite put your finger on outside of it, just kind of does. And those kind of texts are valuable in a moment where everything is getting blurred and, you know, smeared in such a way that like nothing means anything. There is no sort of like good or bad or up or down. It's just like, you know, you're just consuming everything all day and then you go to sleep. And I think, you know, to have that mirror thrown back to you in the form of Neuromancer it's surreal, and it's kind of engaging, and you should give it a shot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we super appreciate you coming on,
Oh
Trevor.
my God, thank you. No, this was great. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Folks should listen to No Cartridge. We will link it in the bio. Do you have anything else to plug?
No, I mean, No Cartridge. I stream sometimes. I've been trying to do better with that, but of course I picked right before the holidays to start again, so that was stupid. But you know, twitch.tv/No Cartridge. But I'm on Blue Sky, No Cartridge.social, and I'm on I sometimes will go on the bad website. That's at Hagelbon. You know, you can probably saw my one tweet at one point. That's, you know, what I'm probably, that'll be like the thing that the people in the future will know me for.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I got a book. It's called Story Mode. You can go check that out too if you want. But yeah, no, it's usually podcasting. So check out No Cartridge. And if you like it, there's a Patreon. There's more stuff there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, listen to my other show, All My Maidens. We have a new episode coming out soon. I have a Elden Ring lore podcast that I do with people where they explain Elden Ring to me. So we have a new episode coming out at the end of the week.
Absolutely.
Right.
And Be back next week as the Socialist Shelf / Workers Lit gang covers Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. So be ready for that and more cool stuff coming down the pipeline. So appreciate everybody listening. And, Lenore usually has the funny sign-offs. So in absence of Lenore, I'll just sort of do the 21 gun salute. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And it's run by this family whose name I 100% know. Just give me 1 second.
The Wayland-Yutani family.
Yes. See, I would say our editor will just edit this, but sometimes he's an asshole and he just makes everyone know how dumb I am. He's probably going to do that this time. The Tessier Ashpool family.
Thank you for listening to Socialist Shelf Radio.